Hello everyone, Colin Canet here for WoodWorkWeb. We have a lot of new users watching this channel, and today we're going to do a 5-minute power session on how to use the table saw safely. In terms of what we wear, these are not optional. We always wear ear protection, we always wear eye protection, and our clothing must be not loose fitting. It should be tight fitting, especially on the arms. And that's not just for woodworking, that's for mechanics, that's for any kind of tool work. The ideal switch on a power tool has a recessed on button and a large paddle that you can even hit with your knee to turn off. The first thing we need to do is to check the setup of the saw, and when we're doing anything to do with the blade, we make sure we're always unplugged. To check the saw to make sure that it's parallel to the miter slots, get yourself a large steel ruler, crank the blade all the way up, and check the distance from the blade very carefully to the miter slot at the top and the bottom, and that should be parallel to the miter slot. The next thing we want to do is to check the fence. The fence must also be absolutely parallel to the miter slot, and for that you can often use your finger because your finger is very sensitive. All fences are adjustable, and you may have to move your fence back and forth to make sure that it's parallel. The final check is to make sure your blade is absolutely at 90 degrees. Use a good quality square and adjust the blade so that it's exactly 90 degrees to the table. Do not try to cut boards that are bowed or cupped, because when you get pushing them through, they're going to move one way or the other. Watch how this falls off the end of the table saw. That's where you get into trouble. Make sure your boards are straight and flat. The blade of a table saw spins in that direction towards the operator, so we're always feeding wood into it. There is always kickback in a table saw, and the kickback comes where there is resistance, and when you're using a fence, the resistance is along here because that's where the blade and where the wood gets pinched between the fence and the blade. So this is the kickback area. In order to push wood safely through a table saw, we always want to control the wood where the kickback is going to occur. So in this case, with a fence, we always want to make sure that we're using a good push stick. If your saw comes with what's called a riving knife, and it sits in there like that and acts like a splitter for the wood, we recommend that you use it. Or if it comes with a blade guard, a lot of them have anti-kickback pawls on them, and a splitter. If your guard is in good repair and the wood is not getting stuck when it goes through the saw, we highly recommend that you use a blade guard. The first thing we do before cutting any material is reset the height of the blade. We never crank the blade all the way up in the table saw and leave it there. We readjust it for every piece of wood we cut. And that is a half tooth above the material. And the next thing to do is to set the positioning of your fence. If your guide is accurate, you can use that. Otherwise, a tape measure works just fine. Put it in place and lock the fence. Now we're going to be using the miter gauge to cross cut. The positioning of the fence needs to be far enough away from the blade so that if this were a piece we were cutting off, for example, that even if it got sideways in here, it couldn't bind. turn the saw, and watch, this piece will not kick back. So operating a table saw is really not that scary once you know the things to look for, how to set it up properly, and how to use it properly. Next time we're going to be doing a 5-minute session on table saw blades. Will make you an expert in 5 minutes. So don't forget to watch for that. I'm Colin Cadet for WoodWorkWeb. We'll see you next time.